With the recording started, I will call to order our meeting of the Fairfield Public Library Board of Trustees for our meeting for July, monthly meeting for July 11th, 2022. We'll start out with the chairman's report. As new chair, not much to report, but I do want to just make note of the thanks that I have to David, previous chair, for the service he provided the town, to this board. His work was greatly appreciated. And the only other thing I did want to do is introduce our new trustee, Aaron Harrigan, who joins us as of the first of this month. We met last week, but I'll give Aaron, you want to take a few minutes just to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I came last Thursday, met a few of you, which I appreciate. Had a nice tour. It's here probably an hour and a half or so. But a little bit about myself. I've lived in town for about 8 years now. I went to Fairfield U, left for about 10 years, came back about here about 8 years. I actually work in town as well in a small company headquartered here in Fairfield. Mostly from home now, but we do have an office here. I have 3 kids. One age is 1 to 8, so we're here a lot. I think my kids have been here 3 or 4 times in the last week alone. So when I saw this position open, I wanted to get more involved in the community. I thought this was a great way. I love the library, so I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aaron, and welcome. Really great to have you. Now we'll move into, we're going to review the minutes from last month's meeting. Jan, do you want us to just pull it up on?
Andrew, it's Christina. Can I ask you, since I'm taking minutes, I cannot see, the screen is so small, so I cannot see who is there, and I just need to make note who is there and who is not. So
Okay,
if there's
so
anybody from...
We have Scott, Chris, Aaron, myself, Nancy, and Jan. And
Thank
Peter,
you.
as per his email, is unable to attend because he is on vacation.
And nobody from the Friends, correct?
No one from the Friends, and our ex officio, Ms. Timniak,
That's
is here.
Chris Timniak. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, probably Hamilton's even. I know. Well, I will be giving him a hard time through my wife. So we'll now go through and review the minutes from last month's meeting. We'll give everyone a few minutes to read through those. Everybody able, you have a copy of those there?
I don't.
Oh, Jan, do you have an extra copy?
Here's the whole packet.
Oh. Oh, can I get a copy as well?
No,
Give it to Chris, I'll hold mine.
I'm pretty sure I said if
Fine.
anyone wants.
I can figure it out. I can read it off and send it over. So,
Okay, that one's this one found.
Andrew, did you send it?
Notes from last? I did not. So here, I will share, Chris. It's there. I'll pull them up on here as well.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Does anyone have any edits or amendments to the meeting notes from last month? Is there a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes. Jill?
Jill, thank you. Is there a second? Chris? All right. All four? Vote? We'll take a vote. Motion to approve the meeting minutes. 4?
Am I voting no, was it at the last meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You're part of the board.
Okay.
Yes,
I didn't know if I had to be at the
you
last
were
meeting.
voting?
Okay, that's fine. Okay. I am now, but I didn't know if I had to be in attendance last
You
time.
can abstain, some people do abstain.
Okay.
You can also.
All right, with that, it is passed and the meeting minutes are approved. So now we'll move into old business. One of the things we discussed in the last meeting was room use policy. I will pull that up real quick, but Scott, do you want to just mention where we were discussing previously?
So, our request is really to have this passed this evening. This policy does 3 things. Really does 4 things. One, it defines how people use the library while they're in the building. You can also find these in the Google Drive with the email that I sent out earlier. So one, it defines how people can use the space, which we don't really have a policy around. We have a bag policy, which we find kind of archaic and in some ways insulting and hard to kind of interpret. So really what the first part of this policy talks about is people being in the building, how they can use chairs and tables, kind of the rules that we already have set up, like you can't move furniture around, you can't have cables strewn across spaces, you can't take up multiple chairs, you can't fill the space with your bags and personal items. Then the second part of it covers meeting room use, not only meeting room use for community partners, but meeting room use for people who rent the room. These are all taken, these weren't policies, but these are all rules that we kind of followed over the last few years. It really defines them in a way that's approved by the board, but gives us flexibility to do the work that we need to do. And then the other thing that's really important about this is it defines meeting rooms. Study rooms. And study rooms are not new, but the way we deliver the service has definitely become a little bit more complicated and the demand is so high. We really need to build in some restrictions for the use of those rooms. So how I like to describe this is the policy for people who are using the library as a third space. Board members and staff who have been here before know that third space is an urban planning. I use it a lot. It's an urban planning term for it's not home, it's not work, it's a public space. That's how I like to describe probably one of the primary uses of the library. And this policy really addresses it. I think this is the second month that the board's had on it. The town has looked at it and given their approval. Managers have looked at it and given their approval. So really it's just kind of up to the board now.
Did everyone receive the Scott's email with the updated policy or the proposed policy? Has everyone had a chance to review that policy?
My only question around that is, what happens in the event of damage to the rooms themselves?
So if they damage the study rooms or the meeting rooms, there is a fine, we call it fine, there is a fee in place. It would be really hard for us, I think if we, in an incident report, recorded someone damaging furniture at such a level that would need replacement, then we would probably file.
Okay.
You would, for the furniture that we have kind of for that third space usage, you'd have to do a real number
We get it.
to get to that, could be replaced.
Yeah, so that's down at the bottom, consequences of policy violation, which I imagine I don't know off the top of my head, our code of conduct would have within there if you are damaging property, library property that.
You can lose your permit.
Yes.
My biggest concern is enforcement, because obviously you don't want librarians, people who work at the library having to enforce collecting fines from individuals, that's not your job.
Yeah.
Right, but at the same time, like, once a person leaves, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's with the study rooms, actually, the study rooms are the biggest issue with this right now. What you have is people coming in and they just leave garbage, like they leave the room a mess.
Right.
And we have them on record, so we can actually say on their record, hey, when we went into the room, when the next person went into the room, you guys dropped 3 pieces of pizza on the floor, smeared them on the wall. It's a good example. But, the room was a mess and we're gonna charge you, for that, we're gonna charge you.
Right, and things like that is more what I'm concerned about. I don't think it needs to get shared in this thing.
No.
Like, I think it's gonna be more along those lines, which then creates an issue for you and for the next person coming in trying to use space.
And I mean, if it's in policy, then it's very clear, we can very clearly, this is something that we've discussed, we've looked at, we've deliberated on, and this is the penalty.
Yeah, Chris, I think, your point about enforcement of election is noted. Just as we find for late votes as well, that's something that is, they are requesting to have their information tied to their, membership, so.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine as there's like a clear way to do it. Because I don't, like, you guys do it.
Oh,
Nonsense.
I think if someone was to contest it, we would handle it the same way we always have for meeting rooms. It's like, well, now you need to have a conversation with, the deputy town librarian or the town librarian, we would have a conversation. Then usually when it reaches the administrative office, the argument kind of stops, kind of de-escalates.
I recall one issue we had, I don't recall, there was something was broken or just a bad mess left. And we billed the organization, or, we told them what, and they just paid. That was the end of it, because the alternative is they wouldn't be able to rent the room again.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, it's more the study rooms where they aren't paying for it. It is a, complimentary. It's not a service that we offer. That's, we don't have their billing information on file.
Yeah, and normally it's like a kid or, someone who's going in there to use it for, purpose specific or whatever.
Yeah.
And we do, the staff are instructed to fill out an incident report if they find a total mess.
Okay.
So it's actually, noted and written down. I think what stops people is really the idea of them losing their library privileges and less about the money.
Right, okay.
And do you have the ability to put it on the record?
We can put it right on the
Okay,
card.
yep.
So when they go to
So-
use their library card,
Yep.
they'll say,
Yeah, with study rooms now, we do require a library.
Yeah, I thought so.
Would be
That-
open.
that was-
I've done it before and
That's
I
new.
actually know it, so hopefully it goes to. Okay, and then also just to note for everybody that this does replace the 2018 bag policy, as we discussed in the previous meeting. So unless there's any further discussion on this item, maybe I'd like to make a motion to adopt the policy as written.
I'll make a motion to adopt as written.
Chris? Is there a second?
Second?
Aaron? All right. To a vote, all those in favor? So I'm. See Christina on this? Yeah, keep mine. Yeah, can you just check the layout? Go to full screen view. I think that might get us everyone. Yeah, do full screen view and then also in layout. Show participants without video, turn it off. There we go. Now we can see everyone at the same time.
Where do you want them?
It's fine.
Can't make it long.
I think you can, if you go to the bottom and drag down.
Makes them bigger.
It's good there. Yeah, it's good there, Ken. All right, So the policy passes, and yeah, passes. Wonderful.
Still good way of bringing policy into the world.
And then just from a process standpoint, I'm assuming at that point, we will remove the 2018 bank policy from the website, and replace it with the, the facilities policy. Wonderful. All right. Now, next item of old business is the town charter revision update. And with that, actually hand it over to both Chris and Scott to discuss while I pull up. If you want to give a recap of the meeting you guys had with the town CFO, or a little late last month.
So we met with the CFO and I never, and Con who is the CFO, I'm not sure exactly, he's an auditor. Yes, he's an auditor. And so the main thing that we were talking to them is about our revisions to the charter. And the main thing we were trying to accomplish, and I think we ultimately got it, was clarification around essentially what, quote unquote, gross income goes from us to them on a quarterly annual basis. And essentially, originally the way we crafted it is essentially they would get none of the money. And we would keep all the funds within our endowment to manage and then use for capital projects as we see fit. They wanted to keep it within lines of the original charter, which essentially had gross income, which was, it's very, could be very broadly defined, term. They wanted to keep that language in there essentially so they could receive dividends and interest payments from us that our funds generate. So essentially what we agreed upon is to define gross income in the charter itself, which we did. The one area that I don't love, but honestly, I don't think we're gonna get where we want is, if you look at it, means realized income such as dividends and interest, fine, but it's generated by bonds. What I don't like is money market accounts and savings accounts included in there. And partially because that's gonna be, for a variety of different reasons, it's gonna be challenged to monitor. Because when we take the funds out of our endowment fund and put it into money market account, it's mixed with other funds until it gets spent. So to be honest with you, it's not even a penny, and it's never something we're gonna actually be able to track and disperse to.
Based on the conversation you guys had, do you think that that's going to be a sticking point for them?
I don't think so at all. Like, it's not something they're really interested in. Like, they're, originally what I wanted to do is include like a minimum number or something it had to exceed. I don't think they really wanted to mess with it. Like, they were just looking to get language in there that made us happy and then got this off everything. That was my main takeaway.
Okay.
So,
And the money that we do hand over to them has to be invested in capital improvements to the library. And they were very comfortable with the idea of this money does not touch operations, which is what we originally wanted.
Yes.
yeah, and that's a key thing that we got as well on the top there. So that could be used for like the elevator inputs or, I don't know, air conditioning unit breaks down or something like that. So it becomes like a, I would say like a, session's not the right word, but like a cushion, I guess.
Yeah.
That we can use or, and it was something we'd have to take to them more or less, I think, at least that's the takeaway between the meeting. That we'd have to take to them and say, hey, look, we really need this to happen. We've been handing over X amount of dollars per year. We think there's this much. We'd like to utilize that. Windows or something that.
And they're open to the idea of bonding and then going back to the original agreement, which is we just paid out our portion.
Yes, which again, was part of new business that we will discuss. So next steps off of this, actually, I do want to walk through this real quick because things in here I noticed that were different than what we did in the past. Powers and duties still remain the same. But one thing to note that we have added is it is commencing on July 21st. So they updated it with a transitional provision that lays out exactly how we will be transitioning off of the 6-year terms into 3-year terms. To note, it lays out who's whose term is for this, because as part of the original agreement, the term is served, so if any one of us left that role, we're only reappointed.
The library will be closing in 30 minutes. If you need a library card or special assistance, please come to the circulation desk now. Just a reminder, the Wi-Fi will shut down at 7:45.
So we'd still be reappointing for that position's term rather than a new term for the new trustee. Everybody clear on that? So for some reason I get hit by a bus, my term still ends at the same time. Whoever replaces me ends at the same time.
Yeah, I think we said that. I think we said that in the last meeting too, Andrew, didn't we? That most likely most of us are still going to have to do the 6th. This would be going forward.
Yes, this is why we had the transition, but it's also just a note that the terms are fixed. So your term, whether you fulfill it or somebody, you resign for some reason or another, somebody will be, that term will end, whether it's you or someone else at the same
Right.
time.
Somebody else will pop in. Yeah.
Correct. So for next steps, I believe the language in part D does not reflect what you guys had discussed.
No, so the language that passed the commission doesn't reflect it. The language that's the town's putting before the board of selectmen will have this language.
Okay.
And I watched the meeting today, riveting, and nothing was brought up, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think it'll just pass.
So how does that work then? Do they just insert it into the charter after the fact?
Yeah.
So this is what they showed in terms of the red lines, and then
Mhm.
our red
I
lines.
think they
get
probably have a
inserted
new
into it.
version.
Yeah, there's probably.
I have to ask Jared or Jim, there should be a new version with the red lines, with the new language.
And just one thing to know as part of this is we don't need to vote on this language. It's
It's smart.
just one thing to bring up. We did discuss this bit last week is obviously this all doesn't take effect until it is passed by the town as part of the vote in November. There is always a possibility it does not pass. No idea what will happen if that is the case. It still need to go back and visit the charter. But it will probably be another commission, it'll be another waste of money. But anyway, so just something to keep in mind, this doesn't go into effect until any charter revision, any impact to the library does not go into effect until it is voted on by the public.
What did they ever decide on the 31st school year?
So we're still discussing it today.
I was talking to Sarah. It's contentious.
No, I know. That's the reason why wood would not pass in November.
Correct.
That isn't any of this other stuff.
It's getting testy, but we all want the library portion to get updated.
No, we definitely did.
Just want this to pass for this, very selfishly. Okay, so, done with old business, we'll now move into the library updates from Scott and Jen.
So June was preparing for summer reading and starting summer reading. Children's and teen departments have done a considerable amount of outreach to local schools. I think they pretty much hit every school that they could hit to promote summer reading. The teen department has established another robust volunteer program. So to help us with all of this work, we have teens coming in from my schools. And what they do is they hand out prizes and assist with programming. Other programs of note, we had Narcan training for the public at the Woods Branch, which was done through Airfield Cares, and that was pretty popular. I know one of the sessions was filled.
Once a month. Nancy.
And then another program of note was Make Music Fairfield, Make Music Day. Once again, we were a venue because of the weather. We actually brought them inside and they played in the gallery. It was pretty neat. Look, it was better once the harvest started and it wasn't loud rock music. It worked out. Woods now has 25 board games that they're debuting for public circulation. And the library has launched 3 new digital products, Press Reader, which is kind of a news reader, Brain HQ, which is games which goes along with the work that Nancy's doing around memory kits and aging. And of course, the Palace Project, which we've talked about before, which is yet another app that you can get to do ebooks and e-resources. Operations wise, there were,
Nancy, how's the board game stuff going?
It's going, it's a little slow, but it's going. I mean, a couple of days, and then Jen did a program last week with teams.
Yep.
That originally she had 30 kids signed up, and then I think 18 came, which was actually more manageable because a lot of it's games. Some of them are really, really quick ones, but others like, have like, it's a whole book of rules, so.
Yep. Great.
Yeah, I mean, getting the word out.
it's Canada.
Great.
So operations wise, there were multiple work orders June and early July have now been fun. Work order wise, most were related to plumbing, HVAC, and removing of old furniture. So if you look on the first floor, we have furniture in, there will be some changes that need to be made because there were some mistakes, not on our staff, but on the firm we bought it from. And Woods has also had toilet issues. Thanks, Nancy, for putting up with that. The dogwood tree that was in the pollinator garden at Woods was removed. This was after we got the okay from the town arborist and the pollinator pathway committee. That's correct. IT has worked on distributing laptops for staff, so the staff can have laptops so we can do more mobile work. And there were a handful of incident reports, including a couple kids riding a scooter. In Woods, parents were spoken to, kids were punished. So the kids may be grounded for a while. Statistical snapshot, overall door count was up 120% over last year. So we had about 25,000 visitors. Still not near pre-pandemic levels, but getting there, inching slowly there.
What was pre-pandemic?
30, between 35 and 40. Yeah. And COVID protocols, the library's begun taking down plexiglass and service desks. We started with the children's desks. We're going to make it through the summer, and then we're going to talk to the staff in the fall about the adult services desks. We want to do improvements all at the same time across each location. I think staff, it's not just about COVID, really, it's about setting boundaries for patrons. So there's some ideas that I think we need to talk about to help with that. And then the COVID signage informing the public of county level will now only be posted when we're in yellow and orange. We're currently in yellow. That just happened Thursday, but 0.1 in one of the metrics. So my hope is that we're back down to green with the green signs. When we're in the green, you won't see any signage. You'll only see signage yellow and orange. And it's always saying we welcome masks. It's not mandatory. Whereas a gentleman walked in the debate today was like, are you advising? I said, no, the level we're at, we're just saying they're welcome. And that's it. That's my report.
Fantastic.
Hey, Andrew, I had a quick question for Nancy about the pollinator pathway. I was reading all about it in the newsletter, which is awesome because I'm very into gardening. Are you guys looking for volunteers at all to come and help plant and things, or do you have that kind of covered with everybody already?
We have it covered right now with some of the committee members on the pollinator pathway. We're hoping because right now we have a small amount of plants. And as we grow, we're hoping to get our teens involved and some of the kids, like once we get it, when we go back to school down under and all of that. But thank you. But right now I think we.
Okay. I was so excited.
You can certainly come. I mean.
I will keep this in mind for next year when I plant the pots out front because PW didn't do it this year.
Oh, I would have done it, Dan. I would have totally come and done that for sure.
I'll remember that next year. So we've got purple petunias in there this year.
Or in the fall, if you want
I
to do
love
something
to
in the
garden
fall.
too, so I'm always up for it too.
It's fun.
Agree.
Forget this boring treasury and all that stuff. Personnel, gardening.
All right, Jen?
Okay, so there's some bad news about the furniture. All of the table legs are the wrong color,
All of them?
except for the 3 that came for the study rooms. But all of the ones on the floor, if you take a look now that I'm telling you this, you will see black chairs and silver legs on the tables. And it does not look good.
Yep.
So our furniture salesperson, who was very good and will make this right, no doubt, was on vacation last week. So I wrote to her today and I sent pictures and pictures. The email didn't go through because it was too big, so I sent it without the pictures and hopefully I'll hear from him tomorrow. So we won't be paying that for a while.
Yep.
Would be, well, you didn't talk, so there's nothing expected.
You talking in terms of timing?
Yeah, and do they just leave the furniture out there with the legs that they currently have on it until the new legs come in
That's what I'm thinking.
and then swap out, but then there's a cost for them on that because those legs will get dinged up and everything else and they're not usable.
Yeah, the tabletops are what's custom made, so perhaps the legs won't have as much lead time. I mean, they're just basic black legs, I don't know.
Yeah, you'd hope. I would say, keep the share back.
And
Over
maybe,
here.
maybe we got somebody else's legs and somebody has ours.
Yeah.
Someone's avoiding this.
Do a leg swap.
Stranger things have happened.
True.
Or they'll be like, oh, we like these black ones better.
I was so upset when we realized it.
How many tables do we have down
You know, I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, I just look at the,
There's so many different kinds that, you know, when we went through, we checked off. The long ones down there, near the ramp area are supposed to have casters as well. Which they don't, and the
Oh, really?
computer table that's up against the main aisle is supposed to have, modesty panels that kind of hide the wiring. So there's a few issues.
Okay. Right. Anything else with regards to library updates? We need to coming up on library updates. and space
I'll
plan.
say that we went to the farmer's market yesterday, and that was a big success. Was it 68 people that were spoken to about the library? Lots of
Fantastic.
literature given out. And Nancy, you want to say something about the summer reading program? How many people?
Oh, yeah, so this year, we really try and get more adults involved. And, so on Saturday I worked and we were at on Friday we were at 270 something, and then when I came to work on Saturday, it was 296. And I said, I want 300 before the end of the day. So every parent that came in, I said, no, you can be doing this. And we were at 301, but
Wonderful.
now we're at 301.
Great.
That's just adults. There's lots of children involved.
Chris, Sina, Jill, Aaron, everybody in there?
We also ran out of stickers too.
All right.
Stickers.
Get signed up. Us trustees should get signed up as well, so wonderful. Wonderful. All right. So we covered off on space planning with that discussion. Jan, I would say, just to put a bow on that, whenever you hear back, let us know and let me know. And we'll share out next meeting. We don't have Peter with us today to bring up fundraising. So we'll move down to the financial and budget report. Scott.
So right now, we have closed out the town portion of our budget. Jan and Julia did a lot of work, everybody did a lot of work to make sure we spent our budget to where it needs to be, and we'll have the final numbers, well, not the final numbers, but we'll have a better idea of what those numbers look like at our next board meeting. And significant amount of money is encumbered. So we've ordered it, we put it in the POs, everything's just gotta get processed, and then we'll have a good idea of where the need is.
Okay, great. All right, treasurer's report. Chris,
So treasurer's report, I sent across something earlier today. We'll band it off right away. Market continues to be volatile. We are down on the year 20%, a little less than 20%, it's like 19 something. Everything at this stage is underperforming, even the conversion, well, it's underperforming, it's performing the way the market is. Even trying to diversify into Europe. Europe's been hit really hard in the last like 15 to 30 days, and that's mostly because of commodities and what's going on with Russia. There's been a couple of companies that potentially are going to be nationalized there. People were anticipating that happening 6-7 months ago, so it's really changed things. We repaid the town for the bonds. That's about 120,000. We did that last week or the week before. We also got the money in to pay down the invoice related to the furniture. So that expense should be coming out of our money market account soon. Final thing, I was calculating what our possible drawdown for 2023 is. And it should be somewhere around like 100 to 105,000, the way we agreed on. I don't know what that number, essentially it's 2% of our only.
Yep.
12 quarter average or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good quarters in there, and obviously we've gone down quite a bit over the last,
An interesting small quarters, it just said.
it's like this, no. And then, so that's a big, potential cost, or I won't say cost, but something that we're gonna use in a positive manner in the next year. And then the other one is, we've got our final debt obligation coming up next year, that's another 120,000, and then we're pretty clear. Something to, well, we can have the rest of the conversation at a later stage. Just looking at the way you're currently invested in through Vanguard, I think there's some small adjustments we should potentially think about. I need to put that a little bit more. Decisive plan, or decisive plan.
Could you remind us of the drawdown, what that is, what that process is for?
No, oh, sorry, yeah. So essentially, we voted on years ago that we would have a drawdown of 2% based on a rolling 12 quarter average of what's in our, specifically our memorial fund.
Okay.
One big drawdown. So we track that, the drawdown. Typically, at the end of December, we'll come up with what the number is, and then we use that towards something that the board as a whole agrees to spend that money on, for like odds for us to be for something that improves the library or libraries in general. So the last go around, what we did is we voted to spend that on the furniture. And then we ended up, originally we were gonna put it together piecemeal and do 100,000 over like 4 years. Ultimately, we ended up doing this portfolios performing.
Check out full material now.
We collectively decided to have a larger drawdown sooner, just so we can speed that whole process out and take it from 4 to 5 years to essentially go.
And it's all each year for one project specifically?
It doesn't have to be for 1 year,
Okay,
but it's geared, it's budgeted towards some expense. So, I don't know, typically we ask librarians to come up with something
Yep.
and say, this is something that'll improve the experience.
Yep.
And then we budget it, vote on it, and we'll earmark that drawdown towards it. Now, what I've done is, because the market was overperforming or performing very, very well over the last, say, 6 years, I've left it in there as long as possible until we actually needed it. And then once you request the money, it takes that. They're technically one month account. Most of the time we're buying off terms in, so. But is it an environment? Feel like we're gonna go back to last 6 years, so we have to figure that out as we go.
This is also something, Aaron, when we discussed the capital expenditure.
Yep.
Kind of improvement plan. It's a way that we have sort of formalized the process, understanding we spend X amount of money on a regular basis, so that the town knows we're not just sitting on our endowment, we are utilizing.
yes, continuing stuff.
Correct,
Got it.
correct.
So I have a question about that drawdown. That, like furniture, additional furniture purchases would come out of that, or is that separate money that's already been allocated?
So I think, so we had 18K rolling over from the previous one, right? That came into this, we paid out 7 or 8, I think recently, so we've got 9 plus the 99, so yeah, so what additional furniture? I know there's a phase 3, but I remember we discussed that, I can't remember exactly when the specific timing of that was going to be.
Well, we'd like to do the study carrels as soon as possible because those are in that same area and they're pretty beat up. And then the rest of the project would be the periodicals room.
Okay. Is that?
Yeah.
Phase 3, was that 16?
It was smaller than the other.
Definitely.
What I would say is, for next month's meeting, or our next meeting, and then we'll leave be in September, actually, is to go through and discuss what's still outstanding, what will need to be added, kind of like we had after phase 1, if anything, and just confirm the remainder.
Yeah, we can confirm the remainder. It's going to most likely come out of that 105 unless we collectively decide to vote on to have a draw out of a special drawdown type thing.
Okay.
But even if our next meeting is in September and there's a budget in place, even if we vote on it, by the time the work's done, we have to pay for it. Realistically, I'm just looking at like December, January.
So
By line item.
maybe
We,
phase
we made this, when did we place this order there?
December,
Yeah,
at last day, December.
we said, we initially said this is gonna be March, April timing. We're obviously sitting in July now. Still not having to pay it, just got here. So,
Yeah, no, I remember the specific one, and that originally was the plan, because I remember when we discussed it, phase 3, which is, this is what I'm going into. It was gonna be more like a 2023 secondary, but if there's a way to move it
Yeah,
up. then
so
why
if
don't
we have to make a phase 4, I mean, we could do that.
Well,
necessary.
phase 2 is the one we're paying for right now.
Right, but if,
Phase 3 is the study carrels that you just talked about, you spoke about.
yeah, and then the rest of it. Yeah, I'll have to look at it to see where it is, but I'm sure it's less than that total figure, but we may want something else as well.
Yeah.
yep. So we'll just have to revisit that. As we come back to, what's remaining. There we go. Sorry, I got hit with the internet outage there. Why we don't share from our laptops. Okay, thank you, Chris. All right, Friends of the Library update. Janice, I know you said Jackie sent you an update.
Yes, so she's traveling when was unable to attend, but she said that the Friends have passed their budget for 22-23.
Sorry, I'm sorry, real quick. Oh, no. All right. Is Jackie the new president again? Or she?
No, Leanne continues as president.
Okay, but
Jackie is,
is our
Like a
liaison.
liaison.
I think they should make that official.
Yeah, I was gonna,
Seems
I just
that
wanted to make sure that I don't realize Jackie was providing the information. Just wanted to understand if it's Leanne never hadn't attended previously and Jackie did the last meeting, so I wasn't sure what the.
Yeah, I haven't heard
The
anything.
intended relationship was.
And that's something we can bring up to the friends.
Okay.
We miss them.
Good.
I like them to have a liaison.
So they're going to add an additional Sound Waves concert in addition to the fall and usually March. I think they're gonna have a February concert. And they're also increasing funding for our museum passes. They had made the commitment to give us $10,000 a year for 10 years. And it's not quite 10 years yet, but they're gonna give us a little more because of inflation and more museums that are available that we'd like to
Wonderful.
get. And the summer reading program, they've given that a little boost as well. They are having a program on July 27th at Black Rock Social House. The book it's an author program with Christine Candic Torres. She did live in Fairfield. I believe she worked on the book in this library. And that is off-site at Black Rock Social House, July 27th. We're also having an in-house program that day on Connecticut wineries. So we're kind of like not too thrilled about the conflict there. But hopefully both programs will do well. And that's not a fundraiser, it's just a social program.
Okay.
Should we tell them about the food truck festival?
It's
Well, the
one,
town's gonna be more engaged. So the town,
more than I do.
so the town saw how successful the food truck festival has been, so, Recreation has been discussing a partnership with the Friends to help out with the festival itself. All money will still continue to go to the Friends of the library. You've made that very clear on multiple occasions. But it might make it a bigger event and it might actually drive up, ticket sales. So we're excited at the prospect of it. And I think the Friends are approaching it in a way that we will still reap all the benefits, but it'll be a larger.
When is it again?
In October 1st?
Late September, early
I
October.
think. It might have been.
It might be more.
No, I did somewhere there.
Whatever the Sunday is around
We'll
that
be sure
time.
to share it out. Probably.
It's after the season arc.
Yeah, each season. Okay, we'll make sure we share it out in the next, we get an update on that as well.
October 2nd.
Okay, great, October 2nd. All right. All right, on to new business. One of the things I first wanted to address, when we met last month, we were going through the executive slate. We had discussed, Chris maintaining the treasurer position.
The library will be closing in 5 minutes. Please check out the material now.
Until Aaron was, at least until Aaron was able to be approved by the first selectman, because we couldn't have a non-approved trustee take the treasurer role. So I guess I wanted to open discussion for, to Chris and to Aaron and to the broader group around whether you'd be interested in taking the treasurer role moving forward. Chris, if you be willing to help Aaron as we move forward if she does. And if there's any issues, either procedurally or any questions as to transition that need to be raised at this point.
No, I'm certainly open to taking it on going forward. Any help you can give and where all of this lives is Yeah.
I'm more than happy to sit down and
great.
walk you through it. I will greatly be appreciative.
All right, well then at that point, I'd like to move that Aaron Harrigan take over the role of treasurer in Chris's place. Are there any, is there a second?
I just want to mention, maybe, I don't know, maybe I didn't hear it. If just make sure that Aaron, hi, Aaron, I'm sorry we're not there to meet you in person, but I promise next time. Really excited to have you join the board, but I was going to say that she's aware of that. It's like, it's not for 6 years or 3 years or whatever the charter comes up with, that she has to be treasurer.
No, I appreciate that.
Or she takes it on.
Yes, okay.
Until we find the next person. Person. All right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we'll go with Jill. All right, all in favor? You want to abstain, Aaron? or-
No.
All right, it's passed, so Aaron, welcome to the new treasurer.
Thank you.
Board of Trustees. Appreciate you, you volunteering. I know Chris has been doing a wonderful job with this.
How long have you been treasurer? 3 years?
3 years.
3.5 years?
3 years, and I think the treasurer before me was 3 years.
Yep.
So it's Duncan. It was Duncan before me.
Yeah. See, you know, you're getting out before you leave, just like that.
Install.
But yeah, we'll set up some time. Myself, Chris, Scott, you know, we can talk through the various things and all of this. Just get you up to speed with everything. Let's meet the next steps. All right. The other thing I did want to bring up with myself taking the chairman role is if somebody wants to take over the space planning efforts. Chris? Exactly.
Write that in the, you can't write that in the minutes, I'm gonna say.
I just figured, the only reason I asked for that is I think what we can do is we'll look at this until through the end of the furniture process.
No, that's fine.
If you've been involved.
Probably the most familiar person. with it.
Yep.
So it's an easy transition anyway.
Yeah, okay,
That's fine.
great. It's not a nominated position, it's not an official position, so.
Oh, I want my name in the, little pamphlet there.
Hey, is this who you're about to put on? Why not?
It's an accident.
Yeah, I know. No, I appreciate that, Chris, because I think it is one of those things that you have this knowledge. There's, most of the stuff is done. I think when we'll talk about facilities plan, and sort of the next steps in terms of how we look at the capital expenditure for the coming years, that we can revisit once we get to another point. But this is really more around the furniture
Yeah, no, that's fine.
the furniture refresh.
And I was just going through and looking through like our phase 3 that we have down, it's like $51,000.
Okay.
That's what it was up until this
Yeah.
point.
How much?
I'm sure.
It's like slightly under 51,000. And that was,
Yeah.
that was slated to be like a Q1 23 expense.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Cool. So right on track becomes time.
Yeah, it's kind of right. This one was illegal.
Oh, it's a good news. It's a good news, Joe.
The Andrew, the library is now closed. The library will reopen tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
So the next thing that I want to bring up, something that Scott and I discussed around the facilities plan. We've obviously coming to the end of our latest bond issue payments. And one of the things that we've discussed is the potential of doing another bond in order to go a little bit bigger in terms of capital improvements that are necessary across both Main Branch and Woods that we could support with this bond repayment. And I just wanted to open it to discussion on thoughts around that, as you know, whether we want to do something a little bit more piecemeal, like we've done recently, or to revisit the idea of a bond again, so we can go a little larger and commit to supporting, with repayment. And that way it's another way for us to kind of keep the Board of Finance happy with our investment into the libraries from a capital expenditure perspective, but also allow us to do a little bit more the near term, amortize over years. So thoughts on that?
So 2 questions. One is, do you have any projects you're thinking about? And
Always.
always. Okay. And 2 is going to like the Board of Finance and trying to get that done. Like, do we understand like what that entails? Like, is that something that obviously they're gonna have to vote on and put, having gone, I don't know if you were on the board, yet when we tried to do the parking lot over
No,
there,
I wasn't, yeah.
but that was like a disaster. I mean, people were very vocal against, right? And I'm not saying for a variety of reasons, they didn't want to distribute the neighborhood, they didn't want to use town money to buy the property, they weren't aware that we had endowment, like it not only was a challenge, but it also opened up a can of worms that we were audited within prudence. So I think, yes, if there's something that's grand enough or big enough that makes sense, then yes, we should take a look at it. But I think we also need to do our homework and fully understand, like, behind the scenes, like, what's it gonna entail? And what are the pros and cons of trying to go down that path?
Yeah, that makes sense. What I would like to start doing though is to begin to collect what items that might be. I know Scott, you obviously have a list of things that would be on your list. I know HVAC here at the Main Branch, Nancy, I'm sure the basement over at Woods. It's another thing you want to look at.
I would say that's number 1. Well, Nancy's in the room, it's number 1.
Just knock the whole thing down and start.
It's got good bones. It's got good bones. Yeah.
I mean, we're in Main Branch, so it's top of mind names. I know it basically needs work. But realistically, I think that is something that is, and, I would say we can put together something. Scott, you and I, let's have conversations around what that would look like. Chris, I'll kind of look into that in terms of like the logistics stuff, like you were just mentioning, because you and, yeah, I think it's just you and Christina were on the board when that went, I think Joe was there too, actually. Were you on board then, Joe?
I was on for the whole parking lot discussion. I agree with Chris. That's kind of how it went down. It was such a fast thing. Like we were approached, Mark Barnhart showed up in the meeting and we were approached about it. And then the next thing you know, it was like, okay, now we're going to talk about this. And now we're going to do a vote. And then, the neighbors in the neighborhood were upset about it. And it just started opening up a can of worms that, so like you were just saying, Andrew, I think it's behooves us to come up with kind of hunt and gather the list of potential larger facilities based projects. So we can have a better idea about business case for those things when we have to build a business case about doing another bond.
Exactly. And my perspective on it is the starting point should be, you should look at the last bond. And I don't know if that is sort of Scott could potentially find that for us.
We've been like 1-1 or 1-2, I think, right?
Probably.
In fact, just based on 10 years.
Since they have
Yeah.
a 20-year.
Yeah.
10-year or 20-year.
Like 10-year bond.
Was it, no, it was 10 years, right? Wasn't like 15?
What are you talking about?
The bond.
Didn't it start in 2005
The 15th.
for the renovation of the building?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so.
Let's just dig into that to see, to get an idea. Regarding the bond for the house next door, that's property in this area is a whole other can of worms. Completely understand where that had the opportunity to go off the rails. There are more specific things in terms of, so anyway, what I would say, look at the previous bond, understand what it entailed with regards to the main branch. How does it compare? How does it differ? And then compare that with the list of items we want to start doing, and how does that fit within what's in scope, out of scope versus what we did previously. Go from there, build business, as you say, Jill, build a business case around it. And then once we feel comfortable with it, and I would say probably try to do some soft selling on the side, talk with the board of finance, to then bring it in front of them at that point. Since it's not something that's going to happen overnight or even within the next probably 6 months, but something we can keep in mind and should as we look to transition out of a space where we are making our final repayment, bond repayment, and is there an opportunity to utilize those funds utilize what would be spent on repayment moving forward.
Just to clarify, it was 2003 and it was 1.75 million.
Okay, so it was a 20 year.
20 year.
Yeah, that's why it would be last year. Next year's last year. Okay. And then the other thing I did want to mention, and bring up just for discussion as something that I see as something that would be well within our purview and something we would want to help fund. I see you there, Jill. Is the idea of website refresh. I think when we look at how we have laid out the strategic plan for the next, 3 years, a lot of it is how we interface with the community, and a big part of that is our website. And so, I would say one of the things when we look at website refresh, we have to understand some cost implications and how we're going to design overhaul, have some further discussions on that. And finding someone to lead that work. Jill, looking in your direction. Any interest?
I'd be happy to form a committee. I'm happy. I'm happy to work on that. I know the library, I think we've all in agreement that it's needed, but we've also had very limited resources to be able to tackle that, right? I think, Jan, we were talking about, we have the one person who does kind of double duty and does stuff for the town as well, right, within the library. So, making an investment, I think this is a good way to think about making an investment in a website refresh to come up with a better experience for everybody. I'd love to be part of that. So yes, I'm fine with that. Just got to figure out how that would work.
Just for a little history, the last time that the website was redone was about 9-10 years ago, and it was funded by the board.
Okay.
Awesome. That's great.
Do you know, Jan, if when we did that, we put an RFP out or?
I believe so. It was right before I got here that
Okay.
started.
Okay,
I would suggest for that scope of work.
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
An RFP needs to be.
yep,
And the good thing is, since the town just did an RFP, and we have a member of our staff who was a part of that, I think we have a relative good idea
perfect.
what our RFP is going to be.
Great. Yeah, so what I would say is, Jill, why don't you and I work with Scott and Jan, to put together an RFP we can put out there for redesign. And we can look at it, we can either discuss it and make edits in our next meeting, and then ideally we'll put that out in the next, in the near, next few meetings. We can approve something to put out there and go from there.
Sounds good. I'm excited.
Great. Yes,
Yes.
Christina.
I think you got the thumbs up.
Is there any other new business that anyone wants to bring up? Silence is golden. Well, Aaron, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Very happy to have you here. And lest I be like my predecessor, is there a motion to adjourn?
I thought you were gonna do it, Andrew. Christina, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Jill. All right. All those in favor? All right, motion passes. So the meeting is adjourned at 8:09 PM.